folks, here he is, the man, the myth, and becoming a legend. It's from the Leak Project, Rex Bear. Rex, how you doing tonight?
Fantastic. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Blessed and highly favored.
Yeah.
Oh, Rex. Wow. I mean, I was just telling everybody, 1811, they had a partial blood moon. 2 weeks later, they had a solar eclipse. During that eclipse, there was a comet called the Great Comet. And then after it went by, 2 months later, what happened? The next month, the comet got its closest point to the Earth. This comet we got coming, it's going to get its closest point. Everything is an exact cycle of 1811. The question is, will we be having those 5 mega quakes that followed? Rex, I know you're following this. You had a tremendous presentation on this webinar. Can you just, without spilling the beans, give the folks a little bit of idea of what they will encounter in this webinar?
Yeah, absolutely. So we found the totality of the eclipse, the 3 eclipses from 2017, and we connected the dots not only with Nineveh, but also Jonah, which is really interesting. And then, so I've been doing some more research on that, but I'll get to that in a minute. So we looked at Salem. There's actually going to be 14 different Salems.
What?
Seven from 2017, and then 7 coming up next month. And so we've
got
they're not in complete totality.
Right. They're in range. They're in the range.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got the 7 Salems from 2017, 7 from 2024. We've got 7 Ninevehs, which is interesting. And what I find even more interesting is Eagle Pass. So we've got Eagle Pass, this 2024, where it's going to start right around Eagle Pass. It's going to go up through Austin and San Antonio. Then it's going to hit Jonah.
Where?
Jonah, Texas. Jonah. So, so I did some more research. Exodus 4:8, right? Okay. Exodus 4:8. The reason I picked Exodus 4:8 is because Exodus 4:8 is April 8th. If you were to look at 4:8, it'd be April 8th.
It'd be April 8th.
Let's look at that for a minute. I think it's really important.
Take us there.
So in Exodus 4:8, we have, I've got this pulled up here. Stand by.
Stand by, everybody. Might be a mega quake just around the corner.
Oh, did you know in 2006? Did you talk about this yet? In 2006,
No, I haven't.
There was an earthquake. There was two, or not? I'm sorry. There was an earthquake, but there were 2 eclipses that made an X in Turkey. The second one was 2006. The X marks the spot. 2006. What? Then one of the biggest earthquakes in modern history in Turkey happens days later.
Wow. I remember that big quake in 2006. Huge. Wow.
Could that be why there's so many National Guard deployed? Let's hope not. I think that most likely the National Guard is going to be deployed because if you're going to have 1 million people in a town that typically has 2,000 people, they need to keep order a little bit, maybe not, just to make you go, oh, they're there. Okay, we won't make idiots of ourselves. There's the National Guard. But I did read on the National Guard's website, nationalguard.mil, that they will have National Guard ready with hazmat capabilities.
Why hazmat? Well, you don't know. How many people have come from the southern border? You don't know who's been planted where. I mean, one of our speakers in this webinar, folks, you got to get your ticket now because one of them is Doug Hagman, whose whole presentation is he's got 4 people embedded down at the southern border. He's got pictures never seen before, and he reveals that in this webinar. So here we go. Maybe that's why the hazmat guys are out there, Rex. I don't know.
You know, they said in case there was an industrial fire on the website, but I find, industrial fire, okay, maybe, but what would a solar eclipse have to do with, an industrial fire? How does that?
I'm not. Yeah. Well, take us to Exodus. You got a Bible scriptures. I've got me excited.
Yes. Okay. Me too. Here it is. Okay. Exodus 4:8. This is the Young's literal translation. And you can find this at Bible Gateway, or you can read any version. But this one says, "And it hath come to pass, if they do not give credence to thee, and hearken not to the voice of the first sign, that they have given credence to the voice to the latter sign."
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, you can't make this up. Okay, so this is going to be April the 8th. So you went to Exodus 4:8. 4, 8. And
Yeah.
the scripture says, and in the King James, just so you know what it says, that it says, it shall come to pass, if they will not believe thee, neither hearken to the voice of the first sign, that they will believe the voice of the latter sign. And you got to wonder, how come? Well, that could mean God could do anything, but we'll become believers quick. So what you're saying is because, or if we don't listen to God's warning, is that what you're saying, Rex? The first eclipse, we will hear his voice this time?
I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. Like, okay, well, you didn't believe the first eclipse. No big deal, right? Even though it went past 7 Salems then. No big deal. 33rd starts from Oregon, 33rd state, incorporated in the Union, leaves the 33rd parallel out of South Carolina. Just a coincidence. But then to add to that, you read Exodus 4:8, and you're like, well, wait a second. Isn't there an eclipse coming up April 8th? The second eclipse in 7 years that's a total eclipse, total solar eclipse?
Wow. And it does say signs. It literally says if you won't hearken to the voice of the first sign, then what are you going to do about the voice of the second or the latter sign? And you know, Jesus was asked a question once, Rex. It said, can you show us a sign? And Jesus said, look, there ain't going to be no sign given except the sign of the prophet Jonah. Well, what was that sign? Right. That was a solar eclipse over Nineveh the day he entered. June 15th, 763 BC. So that's the sign. So here we are, Rex. Here we are. If we won't hear it the first time, we better know that this could be the last time. And the voice of God, we're going to know it's him. May not like it, but we're going to know it's. I don't know. What does it mean?
Well, it's interesting because one of the things that I was just like picking up in my mind and in my heart was that this eclipse that's coming up has something to do, and the X and some of the symbology has something to do with Jesus, right? And
right.
And then you did some research on that, and you shared with me when we were doing the presentation some connections there, and I thought that was fascinating. So how interesting is it that it's also connected with the Jonah and the return of like what? Yeah,
Nineveh, Jonah, and you want to know what the next verse says, Rex?
Share it with me, please.
It says, and it shall come to pass that if they will not believe also these two signs, neither hearken unto thy voice, that thou shalt take the water of the river and pour it upon the land. And the water which thou takest out of the river shall become blood upon the dry land. Well, the river, what are we talking about? Are we talking about the Mississippi here? I mean,
sounds like an earthquake. It sounds like an earthquake and a flood or a tsunami of some type.
Right.
Maybe
I'm just saying.
It could be.
I mean,
River.
I had never seen this verse. I mean, yeah, I've read the Bible several times, but sure. I never saw this scripture and realized that God was saying, I'm going to show you a sign. And then in the Bible usually talks about the latter times would be end days. So I'm going to show you two signs. I'm going to give you two chances. And if you don't get this right, I'll dump the Mississippi on you. I mean, is that what God's saying? Or maybe it's Cascadia, because you do know that Cascadia right now is shaking like crazy.
That's what I heard.